Hi. So, another random ramblings. I saw this article, as you can see on screen. I worry Baldur's Gate 3 will be a ship of Theseus in a few years. And, yeah, I agree with that. And I wanted to go through the article to, just spread it around, but also to just give my own thoughts on it. So, yeah, just go back there. Cool. So, how many things can you change in a game before it stops being the game it was meant to be? By uh, Tessia Kura. Apologies for mispronunciation. So it says here, one of the reasons Larian Studios has become such a huge, has such a huge and loyal fan base is that it is very receptive to feedback. Baldur's Gate 3 had a long early access period and changed extensively throughout the development, shaped heavily by player feedback on what was working and what wasn't. These changes, from things as big as the tone of the game to smaller things like character models, the game has now been officially released for months, but Larian is continuing to make regular changes. There have already been 6 major patches, some of them focused primarily on fixing bugs, and some that have started adding things on top of everything that we already know and love. And yeah, right. So like, I agree with that a lot because one of the big things that I have a huge issue with, like Baldur's Gate currently, is that when will these changes stop, right? When will, the game be on its own 2 feet, right? Because currently it's just being changed on the whims of the players, and all the players are just like, okay, so, you know, we want this, we want that. We want these like small eliminations, we want these big changes and whatnot. And it feels like it eventually won't be the developer's vision anymore, as this article will eventually point out as well. But it will also just, you know, not be the same game. You won't really be able to revisit it in an easy manner, right? And I'm not saying they shouldn't make bug fixes and whatnot, but I think like story changes and stuff like that is a bit of a weird topic, and it feels like it'll eventually change the characterizations of some characters. And we'll get to this in the next part. It just talks about a related game called Dead Cells, which also did a so not patches but these expansions, and these expansions were quite big and went on for quite a few number of years. And the players, when they heard that Dead Cells would stop, being actively developed and just be left as is, they kept complaining. And that's also another issue that this article correctly points out is once the game finishes, right? Once Larry moves on, it means that a lot of people will be upset because now they expect the game to be changed under their whims, right? There's this expectation that Larian has set that nothing is up to change. As this article will also point out, that where was it? Where was it? It's about Minthara. I can't find it, but this article also points out Minthara, right? Minthara was changed so you no longer had to be an evil character to recruit Minthara, but now that you could just knock her out unconscious, and that you will be able to recruit her as a during a good playthrough, right? And the issue that I think with that as well is that it undermines the storytelling, and it gives the players a bit too much power in development, right? Like, being evil with Minthara was the sort of point, and Minthara doesn't become a good character in traditional sense. It just, she's less overtly evil, and it kind of ruins it if you didn't if you didn't side with the goblins against the druids and the tieflings, right? It makes that story beat less weighty, and it's just something that I think is very bad. And then the article also points out that, but some are major changes, and their intentions are less clear. Where characters end up after the game's events got changed. Gortash's letter in the games got changed, tweaking his characterization. Here it is. It became possible to recruit Manthara without first committing mass murder of innocent refugees. And like, it's fine if a game's in development and they tweak the characterization, but once it's already out, changing these characterizations and these small things, right, have huge knock-on effects. Changing who Gortash is will change the game. It'll change a lot of the intentions his plot, his motivations, all of that kind of stuff. And that's something that I feel like is being done simply because players demanded it and not because it was good for the story, you know? And that's just something, you know. Where's the line? I'm thinking here about authorial intent. There are a few accidents when it comes to comes to art. Most things are done intentionally and deliberately to create a specific reaction. At one point, all the changes Larian is now making for its players interfering on what was originally intended. The changes to Gortash's letters are innocuous enough. Uneven characterization over dramatizing is a fair thing to want to fix, but I think those letters are part of what made Gortash the character we saw him as. But the Minthara thing was clearly because players were tying themselves into knots to recruit her in their good runs, and it was the wrong choice. Kiss animations are added because players want them. What else will be added or changed because players ask? How long will Larian continue to change this game? And how much will change? In 5 years, will the characters people fell in love with her during first playthrough end up different versions of themselves? I don't think this outcome is a certainty by any means, but I do think this willingness to give players what they ask for is an unhealthy trend that, while garnering games loyal fans, followings, and long-lasting fandoms, devolves the work of the developers by diluting their original intents, and most importantly, keeps them stuck on projects for longer than should be. I worry that Baldur's Gate 3 will become a version of itself that wasn't part of the original vision because Larian too generously wanted to give the players too much. It's already one of the best games of the decade. Better kissing animations won't change it. And I think that's the ultimate thing I think is very important, is that the game is already good as it was. Yeah, sure, Act 3 in the launch version of Baldur's Gate 3 wasn't great. It was very buggy. But it was still a good game. You know, there was nothing wrong about it in any real way. I mean, they were wrong about it in some specific ways, but those were intentional decisions. But it was ultimately fine. You know, adding all these different changes, like I said, kiss animations, is fine and whatnot, but it's not really important in the end. And doing these bigger things like making Minthara recruitable via a good run and changing Gortash's like characterization and stuff makes it a lot harder to see what will end up. Will they change so much about these characters that only to fit the player's whim and not really to fit the intent that they have? And that's the thing that I think is a huge issue. But yeah, there isn't much to discuss about this other than just say I don't like this idea that the base game is changing so much, and the reason it's being changed isn't really because of the developers, but because, you know, players demand it to be changed. And that's the thing I think is very worrying to me, because I'm fine with Larian being the way they are, because, you know, as a studio and whatnot, I may not like all the decisions, but it's weird to have the players be so involved in that development, because then it makes all the decisions up to scrutiny, and you have to then ask the players if that's fine. Which means, and I think it'll end up meaning that whatever changes people don't like that Larian did, it'll cause a huge outcry. There was a while ago a bit of, not controversy, but a bit of a stir in the Baldur's Gate community where a lot of people really disliked how Larian focused on Astarion over some other characters, namely Will. And this whole stirring caused a lot of people to just be like, what do you mean? Like, you shouldn't just ask Larian of anything. But then the thing is, Larian themselves set the precedent by saying if the players want to change, they'll just change the thing for them. So it's creating this eventual issue that Larian will have to face, which is, which are they going to have to succumb? Are they going to have to succumb to players' demands over their own intent and make a weaker, less focused game because the players wanted to, or tell the players that they can't do everything that they want to do and that they're going to make the game they want to make? Like, that's inevitably going to happen. It's going to be very odd to see what happens when that does. But yeah. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed your day. And if you liked the video, please consider liking slash subscribing. Additionally, the article and the Twitter for this article writer will be in the description below. I hope you have a nice day.